if we are going to deal with this vice on corruption, and the representatives of the governors are here, maybe one needs to figure out to what extent have those corruption prevention committees been set up in our counties, and to what extent are they functioning? Then the question that arises, if you have corruption prevention committees in the county assemblies, where do their reports go? And do we have a mechanism, for instance, of the Senate, through its oversight, of receiving reports of the corruption prevention committees from the county governments for deeper analysis? If you do, well and good. If you don't, maybe there is some window to seriously just think through that perhaps within the framework of legislation, a mechanism can then be put through so that corruption prevention committees from all counties, whether Vihiga, Bungoma, Meru, Samburu, wherever, that there's a format of these reports reaching the Senate so that they can be deliberated and one can try and focus and see whether really there's a serious attempt to fight against corruption in some of those areas. I am intending to drop a letter to the speakers of both houses, because I would like to, in the course of this year, to be able to present to Parliament a sessional paper on Kenya's foreign policy. Because to the best of my recollection, I think we've had sessional papers on many other items, whether agriculture, whether health. There was even the sessional paper on devolution, which provided the framework for the law that set up the legislative agenda for devolution. But over the years, the issue of foreign affairs and the issue of diplomacy has been treated as if it is sometimes just an elitist club around the executive, and we have not quite domesticated our foreign policy to the extent that sometimes Kenyans are wondering, when you talk about these things, what are you really talking about? So I want to entice you as Senate that when I drop this note, I would be very happy also not just to wait for the debate itself, and we shall invite you at other fora as well, but start thinking on how within our foreign policy we can also entrench parliamentary diplomacy. How can we strengthen it? How can we make it better? Because this business is a collective business. And sometimes through parliamentary diplomacy, you can also unlock very serious issues that may be affecting nations. And I think your input in helping us make some better arrangements for the future and for posterity will be very useful. We are gathered here to discuss how the executive and legislature can enhance their relations, creating an enabling environment for the Senate and its committees to deliver on the promise of enhancing service delivery to Kenyans at all levels. It is a worthy and timely occasion to assess the strides we have made and explore ways of cementing the interlinkages between these two arms of government. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a new facet of parliamentary business, and the interrelationship between the legislature and the executive is central to the delivery of our government's bottom-up transformation agenda. This does not in any way imply that the two branches of government have not been working together and collaborating on matters of national interest. What is new, though, is the constitutional architecture under which the two arms of government exist, and in particular, the redefined independence of the two arms, the questions and statements framework, and the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and the House standing orders. For the first time in the history of Kenya, we now have a State Department for Parliamentary Affairs under my office that is mandated to coordinate the implementation of the national government's legislative agenda across all ministries and state departments in consultation with and for transmission to the party coalition leadership in Parliament. The rains that came through have caused massive damage in different parts of the country. And therefore, what was primarily forecast as through the budgetary process of the various county governments is likely to be seriously disrupted. So I think it is important that I flag that area so that the Senate can play a critical role in conjunction with the county governments so that we can realign some of the resources effectively to mitigate on the damage that has been caused. You are all aware, if we are to talk about your regions, everybody has a story to tell, whether it is roads, whether it is schools, whether it is the rail system, whether it is water supplies. A lot of damage has been caused across the board. So I think that is an area that may require some special attention. The other thing I may want to bring forward, again for your consideration, as a liaison committee and how it falls back to your respective committees, is something that the control of budget has raised in the last few days. I think there was something around recall of expenditure, a figure of about 7 billion. I think she'll elaborate later in the conversation, where sometimes this money is recalled and thereafter there's no clear indication how it was utilized, and therefore there's a lot of pilferage. So when you imagine we are talking of how the mediation committee was able to mitigate or mediate and raise an additional 15 billion for the county governments. And then we get the reports from the control of budget that about 17 billion seems to go somewhere, it's recalled, and then it vanishes. This becomes a critical issue that, again, I put before you to have a conversation, a deeper conversation on this matter.